Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. We had a big info dump with the Squadron 42 and its roadmap stuff, but there was also a newsletter and update on what they had been working on over the last few weeks with Squadron 42, some insights into the project, and I want to summarise the important parts of that and then talk about Titan ExoSuits. They've been working on the new IFCS flight model, so tweaking AI behaviour for ships to better utilise flight controls for better dogfighting experiences in the game. And they've noticed that the new IFCS currently causes too much unwanted jousting behaviour in the game, so they're currently looking into ways of modifying that. The new flight model is planned to premiere in Star Citizen's Persistent Universe in Alpha 3.5 March 2019, and will obviously, like many other things, be unified across Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. Ship AI's focus has been on optimising the tactical point system. They're making more sensible use of CPU threads and making sure everything is thread safe or working correctly with multi-threading. They've optimised the character movement system. They're paving the way for subsumption updates to be moved to multi-threading batch updates as well. This is incredibly important for AI subsumption, the economy, pretty much everything that is tied in any way to any sort of automation or subsumption. In FPS combat, the defend area NPC behaviours were added. So behaviours and tasks of NPCs are affected by what they're currently doing and then what takes priority, what's happening around them. So behaviours that cannot be completed or are inappropriate will be ignored for the next most appropriate one. In this way, they can also be given tasks to do, so defend this area as part of a mission objective or because you've been ordered to or whatever. So they're also adding new behaviours to improve combat and patrol of NPCs in this sort of scenario as well. There's now the functionality as well to support stealth gameplay, and they've added some visual and audio stimuli so you can get the attention of guards and prepare traps for NPCs and AI and other players and that sort of stuff. And when you're in Squadron 42, you will be able to find interesting routes to explore to get you around obstacles or complete missions in multiple different ways. Bartender and service NPCs have also been getting work and having their functionalities expanded. They made some new resource economic glasses for cups and things and containers around the bar areas as well. Apparently that's actually quite a big deal. They have a tool as well that allows them to preview different characters using different usables and loadouts to make sure everything's working correctly. Their dialogue wildlines for ship, FPS, and social NPCs were also entirely reworked to unify them within the same overall structure. Animation and cinematics have kicked off production passes on a handful of Squadron 42 scenes. They're also working to finalise the Armourer character for Squadron 42, itself apparently a large and intricate task. Audio worked closely with Squadron 42 music composer Jeff Zanelli to establish themes for the game's different races and important characters, and they've done a second pass on the music as well. They've polished the Vandal armour and concepted the Navy Gunner's outfit. After completing the CitizenCon Squadron 42 teaser trailer, the cinematics team took time to verify that each of the scenes that they were showing there actually works correctly from start to finish. This mainly involved the Shubin Station as well as the battleground around Vega 2. They also worked on a pivotal scene with a unreleased game character, which is a key character in the game which they've not talked about yet, but we don't have any more information other than that for that, unfortunately. This involved using a new method of character hair and skin creation, tweaked for more realism. They actually talked about this relatively recently, that they are trying to improve the skin and hair tech. With hair, they want to use like quite complex hair, but they don't want it to be overly resource aggressive. They have completed first passes for much of the game's narrative, along with nav-spline movements. New functionality was added to allow the team to edit multiple cinematic sequences at once, which will save a lot of time. Some Squadron 42 scenes feature characters on capital ship bridges reacting to things they see through windows, which requires the team to split sequences between interiors and exteriors. The new multi-sequence workflow allows multiple sequences to be opened up and activated at once, and then sync the timelines together. Developments on the female character continue as well, so because of her different size skeleton, the team needs to implement animation-driven inverse kinematics to allow her to reach ship's controls without the need of a new animation set. The female character will have one-to-one parity with the male character's animations, movement, and armor. They have been polishing updated low-level assets for the animations to ensure that she can run around and fire weapons, at least in the short term for their current needs. Work has continued on the character DNA gene pool in order for the next-gen facial customizer to work properly. A limited pool of heads with specific and unique shapes are required. Relevant factors are gender, ethnic origin, age, physical constitution, facial features, noses, lips, eyebrows, all that sort of jazz. They need at least a reasonable amount of variety there, otherwise everyone will look the same. So the new customizer will initially use as many heads as they can get scanned and in-game that fully fit their requirements at the moment. The DNA customizer is pegged for the Persistent Universe in 3.5, so that's again March 2019. For its Tier 0 implementation anyway, and that will continue to grow in diversity and function when it comes to the customization that we will have with those heads, and they'll keep on adding more heads to that database as far as I'm aware. They've previously said you'll be able to use your Squadron 42 character in Star Citizen's Persistent Universe, and that will also work the other way around. You'll be able to take a PU character and use it in Squadron 42 episode 1, 2, and 3, and it will sort of like retroactively fill in your diary of that event in-game. At least that's what the last thing they said about that was. They created a system as well to allow variable limits on how far players can sort of like turn their heads when looking around. So if you're wearing heavier types of armor, that's going to restrict you and how far you can turn your head. Pickup and carry was also finished off for EVA as well, even. So this allows you to move around various objects in the game. So like moving things with 2 hands, pushing crates around, that sort of stuff. Some engine stuff. They've continued work on GPU skinning and adding various support for motion blur, and they've improved some terrain generation computation stuff by about 30 to 50%, reducing the number of cell queries required for planets and improving proxy mesh generation of terrain ground volumes. Basically, better planet generation, quicker, more efficient planet generation. Terrain rendering improvements were also added, so they've made fixes for water volume on ocean rendering. The existing hair shader was improved, and a new depth of field algorithm was created to improve quality and performance and fix halos around silhouettes. They also worked on culling refinements for increased performance and low-level optimizations to reduce load on the render thread. Graphics worked on several shader side effects. They have a new hard surface shader that should improve performance as well, allowing new surface shader features, and will also enable more dynamic wear and dirt effects. General performance was also a focus, with most attention on low-level texture and mesh streaming systems to help squeeze as much content in with as little performance impact as possible. And one of the super important things for Squadron 42 is then getting object container streaming in and fully finished. The rest of the client-side features for object container streaming are currently in 3.5, it seems. However, the server-side stuff, which is going to be used in unison with the client-side stuff, will come a little bit later, but is obviously being worked on now. Now, in Squadron 42, the client and server is basically the same thing, or at the very least, it's not separable. Actually, with the new hard surface shader and wear and tear stuff in mind, this is also going to be used to sort of like blend together localized damage to make it look more realistic. So you'd have bulkheads that exploded and destroyed, and then you'd have different levels of damage all blending together, rather than just a damaged area, then perfectly normal area that looked fresh and new. So they sort of like will blend all this together, and they'll try and make it so it looks realistic damage-wise when ships have been destroyed or damaged or ripped apart or slightly battered or whatever. They're paying particular attention to make sure that wear looks natural and unforced. One of the high-level goals for Squadron 42 is that every asset and its features sit in a scene naturally, feel unforced, and for the lighting to have a slightly softer, more realistic feel, except for some areas where they do want to crack that intensity up to 11 to make it sort of like hyper-realism, really intense cinematic scene. They worked on a Javelin, which is going to be used early in the campaign. They improved its lighting and made it a lot more efficient. The vast Shuban mining station gained more detail in the supporting structures around it, and they've continued to develop the facility's bridge, which was actually shown in the CitizenCon 2948 trailer. That bridge is apparently 3 times the size of a Bengals bridge, which is going to be pretty big. They've updated crew behaviors on the Idris for like being off duty and relaxing, eating in the mess hall just when they're moving around. They've been using the render-to-texture tech to help bring cockpits and communications to life. You remember, like in Wing Commander, you'd constantly have people talking to you on your comm system, so I assume it's going to be something like that. Props have been working on sub-items as well as maintenance machinery, and props have been working on lots of things like monitors, screens, wiring looms, hatch covers, ropes, destructible lights, pressurized items. And they're all getting attention, and they're all being placed in their correct areas. It's all like set dressing, it's all prop dressing. And a lot of these props are going to be deformable, breakable, damageable, explodables, all that sort of stuff. Several key events take place where these assets need to react correctly to gravity, decompression, damage, electricity, lots of different effects, all of them, all of the effects. They worked on vehicle scanning improvements as well, allowing for various subsystem targeting, some of which we can see in 3.4 alpha, and more functionality for scanning nav points and destination info, and how this actually gets to the player. They worked on lighting effects, thrusters, and gas clouds, trying to get finer detail and control of these asset placements and all that sort of stuff at less resource cost. Thrusters gained some more functionality as well, including damage, overheat, and misfire options to them, which is interesting and cool. They are doing some R&D for the Xi'an FPS missile launcher. They carried on with the multi-tool updates and Squadron 42's needs for that. I think multi-tools are just going to be invaluable in Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. They're going to allow you to repair stuff. They're going to allow you to weld things. They're going to allow you to break into things. They're going to allow you to complete missions by removing components. They might be used for some salvage stuff. Lots and lots of uses. I suspect everyone will pretty much have one all the time. They've been trying to make improvements to the UI system as well. So this is a lot of stuff when it comes to players during missions and objectives. They need to be given a particular amount of information, and they're just trying to work out exactly what information that should convey and how much you should get of it. Is it accessible through other menus or whatever, or is it just all on your screen and HUD? And then that's going to be entirely unified with the Persistent Universe. Another major feature worked on was the area map as well. Pre-visuals of how the map could be were built procedurally using existing underlying systems, such as the room system. This informs not only the overall layout of an area, but also it becomes more defined as the player traverses the environment for the first time. Basically, we're going to have lots of different levels of map, and we will have first-person shooter-esque maps, not just giant space maps. We will have maps on the ground and or facilities as well. They've been making a tannoy system which can pump audio to multiple parts of an environment. For example, an announcement to a single ship's hangar, or more of a global ship-wide announcement. This could be warnings or whatever, or entering combat sort of sirens or whatever. Let's talk a bit more about the Titan suit before we go. So at the bottom of that newsletter, there was, again, the picture of the Titan suit, which appeared on the Squadron 42 roadmap. It's currently pegged at being complete for Q4 2019. Now that's for Squadron 42. These should take a little bit more time to get into the Persistent Universe, but I am expecting them to go on concept sale at some point before that. They were originally built for industrial purposes, and they've expanded to military and combat operations as well, is the idea of these suits, so I expect there's quite a lot of different modularity for them, allowing for combat or utility purposes in lots of different scenarios. The concept is pictured with some form of lightning gun, and the actual Titan ExoSuit is about 10 foot high. The weapon it's holding looks maybe size 1 or 2. It's two-handed. I think it's probably a size 2, it looks like. I can certainly imagine them having the ability to use various weapons of up to a size 2 ship equivalent sort of thing, although it might have its own range of weapons specifically to be used by a Titan suit. I love the look of these. I'm interested to know how they're transported. Do you just keep them in a cargo area, or do you need a special dock? Are they charged like power armor or something? What sort of doorways can they get into? Can they, will they literally be blocked for going into certain areas, or are they small enough to get into certain places? Can they crouch down to get into smaller doors? Things like that. Because how you use them, how you get them to the fight, what areas can they go into, how mobile are they? Do they keep on getting flanked from behind? Can they turn in certain areas? Are they just entirely not able to access others? Those sort of things are just as important to me as their loadouts and the weapons they can use. And obviously, if you use them for utility purposes, what sort of utility items do we have? I'd love to see them to have sort of like a mixture of the same customization that ships and armor does. So maybe there's going to be lots of different types of leg, lots of different types of arm, lots of different types of armor that we can put on them, and accessories we can put on them, and customization, and lots of different loadouts and weapons. If they go really, really sort of like uber customization when it comes to these sort of things, that's going to make me a lot happier. In fact, when it comes down to Star Citizen, the Persistent Universe, rather than Squadron 42, the amount of customization is so important for the actual Persistent Universe. You want to express yourself in multiplayer. Yes, Squadron 42 is going to be more military and rigid, and it's going to have that storyline that it takes you down. You don't have to have all the customization in the world. No one else is really going to see it if you paint your ship in lots of different colors or whatever. It's sort of much more relevant. But in multiplayer, much more expressive, and I want to have lots of customization options here. And even when it comes to loadouts, there's going to be a lot more going on in the Persistent Universe when it comes to man and players, the most deadly of game, because players are much more challenging than NPCs typically, because they can make the same sort of choices you can, and customization and meta and all that sort of stuff changes. It's just, I love customization. I like having a good think for like a few hours working out how to tweak my systems and exactly what loadouts for what situation are important. And I hope they go down that route with everything in Star Citizen, but I suppose more specifically in this situation, I hope that's the sort of stuff we see with Titan suits. And when it comes to when these are going to go on concept sale or whatever, we don't really know. Q4 2019 is when they're pegged to be completed for Squadron 42, so we could actually see them potentially in the next quarter, or even in that quarter, actually in game as flyable or drivable, rideable, you know, mechable. Although they are exosuits and not mechs, you don't want to get those two confused because that causes some anger apparently. Concept-wise though, I wouldn't be surprised to see them as the first concept sale in 2019, so like end of January, maybe mid-February or something like that. Don't hold me to that though. And we could potentially see such utility purposes as cargo moving or salvage or repair, that sort of stuff. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear people's opinions on this sort of stuff. I know it's a bit theory crafty, but it's Star Citizen. It's good to chat about these sort of things because sometimes they give ideas to the devs and sometimes it's good to talk about these things before they're even completed. I know that it's less relevant until they are, but you know, hope everyone's doing okay and please have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year or whatever you celebrate around this time of year. I wish you one of those. During December, we are giving away a Star Citizen game package, Saber Raven and CitizenCon 2948 goodies pack. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning those is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my videos made during December. More details are linked below. And if you are considering getting a new gaming PC or upgrading, first please consider the Shadow Cloud gaming service. It leverages the power of your internet connection to turn a device, be it phone, laptop, tablet, or PC, into a powerful Windows 10 gaming rig. I've seen people just use their phones and a gamepad now to play Star Citizen. It works great for me in Star Citizen Alpha 3.3.7, and the Shadow guys keep on updating both their hardware and software. Your mileage may vary with Shadow though, based on your internet connection, so please bear that in mind. It is subscription based, and using the code BoredGamer will net you a discount. If you don't have Star Citizen yet, then please check out the links below as well to get 5,000 UEC, the in-game currency, as a bonus. Any comments and feedback is appreciated. Please take care, guys, and I'll see you in the verse.